Welcome, welcome. I see we still have other people logging on. Just wanted to welcome everybody and get started here in about a minute. How's everybody doing? Sorry to ask a question. We have so many people in today's Zoom chat. We're gonna keep everyone muted, but we will have opportunity to have questions toward the end. But let me first introduce myself for those that haven't met me. I'm Kelly Sorensen. I'm the Executive Director at Ventana Wildlife Society, and you are at our monthly Condor Zoom chat, where you get to interact directly with the field biologists that are doing this crucial work to save the California condor in the wild. And I welcome you once again. Thank you so much for coming. It looks like we have well over 200 people here today, so it's just really exciting to see all of you here. And I know you have a ton of questions, so we'll get to that shortly. I wanted to show you this screen. This is our website under the wildlife category, under condors, and then you go down to presentations, and then you arrive at this page. And I wanted you to see this just because we will always post our previous Zoom chat here. In fact, as you'll see, there's the last 6. We've been doing this now for just 6 months. So if you want to sign up to a Zoom chat, you RSVP right here. The next one, by the way, will be 1 week prior to Thanksgiving, because we don't want to hold this on Thanksgiving. So it will be on November 19th, the same time, 4 p.m., and the same Zoom credentials, although you can always RSVP at any time to ensure that you get the proper Zoom details. So today we're going to be obviously giving you an update on Iniko and other key updates from the field. I want to just finish by mentioning we have 7 condors ready for release in San Simeon, and I want to personally thank 3 people. I'm not sure if they're on this chat or not, but 3 people that have been extremely helpful in naming those 7 condors that are getting ready for release in San Simeon next year. And these are folks that are descendants of indigenous tribes that are found here in present-day Monterey County, the Rumsian, the Esalen, and the Salinan. So I want to personally thank Linda Yamani, Jana Nason from the Esalen tribe, and Greg Castro from Salinan. And all 3 of those folks in particular were extremely helpful in coming up with names that would be fitting for the California condors that we're getting ready to release next month. And if you go to this page under condors and under releases, we'll keep you up to date on those birds on this page, and you can even click on these pronunciations so you can hear how they're supposed to be pronounced. And again, Joe Burnett on our Condor program and others will share with you more about those birds here in a bit. With that, I want to welcome you once again and turn it over to Joe Burnett. Thank you.
Thanks, Kelly. I am going to unspotlight you. Let me see here. Hi, everyone. Thanks for joining us tonight. And again, it's a lot to update everyone on. A lot has happened since our last update. You know, it's hard to believe it's been almost 2 months since that fire came through and devastated our Condor Sanctuary. But yeah, we definitely appreciate all the support you guys have been giving us over the last couple months, and it's been an incredible outpouring. And as Kelly stated, it's just been we're just kind of refocusing, trying to get up to the rebuild mode and into the keep the foot to the gas pedal here with Condor recovery. I'm going to share my screen and get my presentation pulled up. And I hope everyone can see this. All right, can everyone see my slide? Yeah. Okay, thanks again for joining us. Yeah, tonight I'm going to give, as Kelly said, I'm going to give an update on Iniko. I've got Darren Gross with me tonight, another fellow biologist on the crew. We also have, I believe, Mike Stakes on the Zoom tonight. He's one of our senior biologists, working with our free non-lead ammunition program and also assisting with Condors. And we have Evan McGreeth and we have Stephanie Herrera, and they are also on the call too. So again, we all work together to do the work with the Condors. And I also want to recognize our two interns down at San Simeon. They're taking care of our pre-release birds right now, Moed and Jonathan. And we're going to talk a little bit about everything tonight, just give everybody an update. But I wanted to start with the Dolan Fire timeline and kind of the status of the flock, just to recap for those of you who haven't been on previous Zoom talks. So on the night of, the evening of August 18th, about 4 miles away from our Condor Sanctuary, a fire started. It appears it was arson related. The fire basically reached our site within a couple days, and it burned through our Condor Sanctuary and burned over the course of a week. It burned over 4 different nest sites. In the process, the fire destroyed our Condor release pen, and our research facility was destroyed. A complete loss. And the more unfortunate news is right after the fire, we had 11 condors go missing. 9 of those were free flying and 2 were nestlings in nest. Unfortunately, the birds are now being presumed dead. I'll get more of that in a minute. But currently the Dolan Fire is pretty much out. They say it's 98% contained, but I think they're just staying cautious. But it ended up burning almost 125,000 acres. So really large fire. Kudos to the firefighters for the job they did. They contained it. It could have been a lot worse. And again, our hearts go out to also the Big Sur community, the folks that actually lost their homes. Fortunately, we didn't have anybody, no human lives were lost in the fire. We did have some firefighters injured at one of the critical points of the fire. But again, big kudos out to the firefighting community for everything they did. The status of I set up my presentation tonight. We had a lot of questions, and that's understandable, especially with everything that happened. A lot of questions about Iniko, which I'm gonna try to address a lot about the status of the population and what is the status of these missing birds. And again, the missing are now presumed dead. We've searched extensively by land, by air. We sent up airplanes. We know where these birds go. We know all their little nooks and crannies of where they can hang out, and we have not found them. And we have had none reappear. So unfortunately, we're fairly positive those birds have passed and were perished in the fire. And since then, we've actually noticed, we've discovered 4 different birds with actual burns to their legs and their head, and they survived, obviously, and the burns are healing, but it gave us some indication, and these were birds that we knew were in the area where the birds got burned over that night. They were in the vicinity. So we know that the losses probably could have been a lot worse. So while it's sad to have lost so many, in a way, we're kind of looking at it. The silver lining was we potentially could have lost more, the way that fire burned through at night. And the same with the nestlings. We did lose 2 nestlings, but we had 6 make it, and 2 of those were recently evacuated, but we still have 4 going out in the wild. So a lot of positives going on. We have 9 condors awaiting release. 2 are going to get released at Pinnacles and 7 down at San Simeon. And that's all going to happen November, December 2020. I'm going to talk more about that as well. And then Yeah, so we're at 80 condors basically after the fire, and this doesn't only include fire deaths, but it also what we presume dead. But we've also lost some birds to lead poisoning. Lead poisoning is still the #1 mortality threat to condors, and they become poisoned when they ingest spent lead ammunition and carcasses they find out in the field. Anything from ground squirrels, typically something that's shot, or basically either as part of varmint control or as part of hunting. The condors come, they're obligate scavengers, and they ingest the lead fragments. We get asked, lead has been banned in California, but there's obviously still a pathway of lead getting to these birds. So it's just, we got to increase compliance, and we're trying to help do that with our free non-lead program. So that's the latest on the flock. So we hope to be by Christmas, we hope to have the flock back up to 93. The flock was roughly just right over 100 birds before the fire. So we're looking forward to getting that population number back up. The Iniko update, yeah. So everyone knows Iniko that's been watching the cam, and Iniko survived the fire. Unfortunately, Kingpin his father was lost, but Redwood Queen held down the fort. So we've all been rallying for Iniko. Definitely, the bird has had a lot of curveballs thrown at it in terms of surviving a fire was one miracle, and then it had a recent curveball of a neighboring young up-and-coming male coming by and basically, we think, trying to take over the territory. And this is what happened. This was on the afternoon. The cam was streaming, and this happened live. No one expected it. It was the afternoon. It kind of unfolded. 729 AK Ninja, a young breeding age male, not yet paired, showed up at Iniko's nest. At first, we didn't know what exactly. I had a bad feeling initially. Anytime a male shows up and dad's not around, it's probably not good. And that goes for all wildlife. It's just not a condor thing. A lot of species have this sort of pattern. So Kingpin had a very prized territory. He was one of the top birds in our flock. So it made sense to us that a male might come by. We were hoping they would wait a little bit. But obviously 729 showed up, began to attack Iniko. Redwood Queen, being an awesome mom, came to help Iniko, and the three battled it out inside the cavity, and the end result was all three coming out of the cavity and Iniko going to the ground. So it was a very dramatic scene that unfolded, and now we had Iniko, who was near fledge age, very close to the natural age he would fledge, which he or she would fledge. So that was actually a good, one of the benefits was, like, we knew that he or she could potentially adapt and potentially catch up, and as long as 729 wouldn't keep attacking. So unfortunately, when Iniko hit the ground, 729 kept after him, and over the next couple days, we noticed a limp on his leg. We noticed Iniko wasn't getting up off the ground, and it may have been that 729 was in the area and we couldn't see him, and that Iniko just felt like he or she had to stay near the ground. So anyway, for a young condor, one night is probably, one or two nights is okay, but the fact that Iniko was not progressing and trying to get up into a tree or trying to get in branches worried us. And then when we noticed the limp, we knew he had an unknown injury, and that may have been playing a role. So we decided, communicated with all of our partners, the zoos, Fish and Wildlife Service, and it was decided that we should evacuate Iniko. So on 10/22, I believe that was a Monday, the crew assembled. Again, we have an awesome, dedicated crew. This was not an easy task. It's a very remote spot, very steep, very right. Just getting there is a task for us. And then the idea of carrying out a condor was definitely a little bit daunting to all of us. But again, everyone dug deep. We planned it out very carefully, and we were able to get down to the tree where Iniko was. We had a video I think folks have seen that kind of captured it really well. Stephanie on our crew filmed this awesome sequence as we captured the bird. And we did it as safely and as calmly as we could. This was the first time Iniko has ever seen or interacted with humans. So our main goal was not only to capture him, but do it as calmly as possible. And I think the video captures that pretty well. And that was really our goal. And these two photos, Darren was able to pull Iniko in after we corralled him, and he calmly picked him up. Iniko struggled a little bit, but not much. And fortunately, we walked up and we have these carrying kennels that we put that we transport condors in, and we were able to get Iniko in. And we also looked at his legs. We could tell there was not a major break or any kind of damage to his leg. Not to say there wasn't a potential fracture, but just physically viewing, we could tell the injury was definitely not a bad one. So we were relieved at that. So we got him in the kennel. Next step, we had to get him to Los Angeles Zoo. They have a state-of-the-art veterinarian facility. As we told you before with our first evacuation of 1033, they were on the ready to receive Iniko. So we knew he was going somewhere where he'd be in good hands. And again, the hike out was harrowing. It took everyone to have a hand on this kennel to make sure it was okay. And in this photo, you can see we formed a backpack out of the kennel, and Evan, the beast on our crew, he took it upon him to hike that bird out. So it was pretty cool. You can see him on the right here. And we're in the, it's a freshly burned area, very loose, and we're all just trying our best just to make sure he doesn't slip, because if he slips, he's probably not going to stop till he hits the bottom of the canyon. So you really can't tell it in this photo. So we had to be really, really careful. But mission accomplished. Big kudos to the crew. Iniko made it safe and sound to LA Zoo. He was transported down by Stephanie, and she was able to be there to document Iniko's treatment on the zoo level. And that was actually pretty awesome to be able to witness. Again, the zoo is incredible. Again, their keeper staff there, just, I can't even put into words how the expertise that they have. So we pretty much had this condor in the best hands possible. And so fortunately, they did a full exam, and the leg injury was just an injury. There were no breaks, no fractures. We think he strained or bruised his upper leg during the scuffle with 729 and maybe on the landing. But as of yesterday, the limp was gone, and Iniko is doing well on the, I'm going to move my screen here real quick. You can see the photo here on the right. That's where Iniko is. He's basically they converted a nest box for him, so he can look out at the birds he will eventually be with in captivity, and there are other young birds similar in age that are getting ready to get released next year. So our plan for Iniko is to keep him healthy, introduce him to these other young birds, and there's also older birds. It's basically kind of a mixed age flock, and he will basically assimilate to that flock. And this whole facility is off limits to the public and kept very private. None of these birds will see people, except obviously when they're being treated. They go to great efforts to keep the birds isolated until they can bring them back to us for release. So our hope that if it all goes well, which it looks like it will, that we will have Iniko back here next year, and he or she will be getting released and he'll be basically, Iniko will be placed in with some other pre-release birds, and he'll come part of a group. So it's pretty exciting. And we hope the same obviously for 1033 that was evacuated just before. 1033 is still trying to overcome some injuries that it sustained. They're still evaluating what is going on. We have our hopes up, but again, there's just some development stuff with 1033 that we're hoping clears up, but it's too hard to say right now. So will Iniko fully recover? And I'm addressing some of the questions that were sent in, and thank you, by the way. There were awesome questions. We got more questions than we've ever had, and a majority of them, I would say, were about Iniko. No surprise. So I'm hoping I'm addressing most of everyone's questions about Iniko, and a lot of them were about, will he fully recover? And again, looks good, looking really good. Was his leg broken? No. He had just a superficial bruise or strain, and it looks like it's already cleared up. So that's exciting. So in terms of his physical health, he should get back to 100% fairly soon. And what will happen, again, he'll stay in captivity probably for the next 8-9 months, and then we'll get him back out and release him back in San Simeon or Big Sur. And the other question we were getting, will he return to the nest? Will he recognize mom? I'm convinced he'll recognize mom. I know I would never forget my mom. And, I don't know the exact depths of their connection, but I can't imagine they aren't going to see each other and go, hey, I remember you. And, what you have to remember is 190 is in the mode of, she has to keep going with the flock. She is going to definitely try to probably repair, and she could be nesting in that same redwood again, even this winter. So we're ready for anything. The crew is watching closely. We haven't seen anything yet to say that she's, searching for a new mate. It might take her a couple years, or it could take her a couple months. It's just hard to say. Again, there's a natural drive to nest, so she might find a new mate sooner than we think. And ironically, it could even end up being 729. So don't be surprised. Yeah. All sorts of surprises that could come our way with condors. There's a lot of social structure with condors that I've talked about in past Zooms. It's very complex, and with the loss of the 11, those 9 birds that were lost were all part of that hierarchy. So the hierarchy's been rattled a little bit, and so they're going to start it's going to start restructuring itself. And as that restructures, we're probably going to get some new pairings. We're going to get a change in maybe in the lower ranks. There might be birds that move up. Birds like 729 could move up. So it's kind of an exciting time to see what's going to happen. But honestly, none of us really know. We're just watching and observing and taking really good notes and just trying to figure out who's with who. And the most exciting news, what is Iniko's gender? Well, you're going to have to wait till the end of the talk. We do know. So I'm going to leave that little teaser out there, but you will know by the end of the talk. And so place your bets. 190 Redwood Queen. We also received a lot of questions about 190. Redwood Queen. Will she keep her territory? We hope so. And it really depends on who she pairs with. But it's really, again, it's unknown at this point. Hopefully by our next update, we'll know. That's what would be nice as we update every month. As we get closer to nesting season, which birds begin laying eggs in mid-January, and will lay all the way through as late April, early May. So we have a big window there, but we'll usually see courtship displays starting easily at the end of November. Between Thanksgiving and Christmas, it really kicks into gear. So by then we'll really have a good idea about what's going on. And will she find a new mate? And Darren can pipe in on this one. We don't have any big candidates yet. Would you say, Darren? I don't think we have anybody that's really jumped out.
Yeah, no one obvious yet, but I mean, in the next few weeks, we'll see what happens.
Yeah. So the whole crew is watching. We're as excited as you guys to see what unfolds. And yeah, we don't have any guesses. I'm just one of those people that go, wouldn't it be funny if she ends up with 729? It's like, that's how condors roll sometimes. But yeah, there's a lot of awesome males out there that she could end up with. So yeah, she's definitely got a pick of the litter, I think. I also wanted to talk about, and Kelly mentioned it, our next release group down at San Simeon. The San Simeon 7 are here and looking great. They arrived a few weeks ago. All of these birds, when the fire happened, we were supposed to get these birds a lot earlier, but when the fire happened, we had to delay the transfer. They were coming up from San Diego Wild Animal Park, which is one of the captive breeding facilities that raise chicks for us to release. So Pinnacles took our 7 to their facility. And again, Pinnacles is they co-manage the flock with us. They're a really important collaborator, one of our most important partners up here in Central California. And they helped us out big time by taking those birds. About 3 weeks ago, we sent the 7 that were designated for San Simeon over to here, and they kept 2. And on the left there, there we got Moed and Jonathan carrying a kennel in, and the birds adjusted pretty quickly, which was nice. They're a really tight group, and Darren can jump in. He's going to jump in a lot more here in a second to describe the whole cohort. But here's a kind of a biologist view on the left of looking into the pen. That's one-way glass, so we can see in. They can't, or we can see out. They can't see us inside. It just looks like a mirror. So we can watch, and what Mo and Jonathan are doing is watching these birds closely, seeing how they're socializing, which is really important. You want the group to be a nice, cohesive group that get along, and we're always looking for a bird that maybe is not keeping up with the others. So far what we've heard is that this group of 7 are all pretty even keeled, right, Darren? I mean,
Yeah, they've all been feeding together. It always seems to be a frenzy whenever there's fresh food put out, which is a really good thing to see. I mean, if there are any squabbles, they're very short, which just means they all respect each other's aggressiveness and tools to work with there. So yeah, they're all doing really well.
Yeah, and just yesterday, the whole crew was down in San Simeon, and this is something that you have to do before you release any condors. You attach radio tags and GPS tags. And so right here, this is 962 with a fresh GPS tag. And this is a really important tool for monitoring post-release. As you can imagine, a 10-foot wingspan can go from point A to point B pretty quickly and get way out in front of us. So the GPS transmitters are really helpful, as well as the radios. So this was an exciting time too for Mo and Jonathan to handle their first condors. Here's Jonathan holding his very first condor, which is really cool. And Mo too, they did great. And yeah, we got these, all 7 birds are tagged and ready. And Jonathan and Mo actually have been heard about the names, and that Kelly had mentioned, which is really awesome. And Darren's going to go through and tell us who got what names.
Sure. So yeah, first here we have 966, or Peachy, which is in reference to the Pico Blanco Mountain in Big Sur, and that is Peachy is from the Esalen language. And 966 is one of the 2 females in this cohort. The other female is 962, and the rest of the 5 are all males. So 956, one of those males, his name is Huchen, which means to get to be first in Rumsen language. And the interns decided to give 956 that name because he is frequently the first one to go down to food without any hesitation. 957, his name is Morsch, which means to be dark in the Rumsen language. And he's kind of been, if there is any bird that's dominant in the cohort, or at least the most aggressive, he tends to be that bird. But yeah, they've all been a lot of fun to watch. And then, yeah, 962, the other female here, or her name is Soto, which means black in Rumsen. And yeah, another female that has been doing great in there. 968, his name is Wasak, which means condor in Rumsen. And he seems, I think this has been borne out in the weight too, that our interns have been recording. They take daily measurements of the condor weights because we have a scale in there. But I think he's the largest of the condors that we have in this cohort. And 994, his name is Hakeem, which means to eat ravenously in the Rumsen language. And really, they could all get that name, but 994 seemed to earn it especially. And then 995 is Teach, which means condor in the Selenian language. And yeah, another big boy that's been doing well in there amongst all the others.
So yeah, they're tagged and ready, and we're hoping to release, and maybe as soon as a couple weeks. We kind of want to start releasing before the big weather starts rolling into the Central Coast. Typically don't get the big storms till January, but our hope is to have all 7 out by Christmas. So those of you who live down in the Cambria, San Simeon area, they're coming to a sky near you. And again, anytime we release, if you see a condor in trouble or a condor acting oddly, you know, they all have the wing tags. And a great way to identify them is to go to condorspotter.com, and that links to our website and to the bios. And so next week, Mode and Jonathan are going to potentially have the bios done, and we'll have those posted for these guys definitely before they go out and get released. And in terms of release, we release 2 or 3 birds at a time. We try not to do a big mass release. Just it allows the birds time to kind of figure stuff out, and just from a management monitoring side, it makes it a little more manageable for us. Yeah, you can imagine even three condors is hard to keep up with, especially ones that have never been in the wild before in their lives, and their eyes are just this big around in amazement. So yeah, this is yeah, we've been releasing at San Simeon specifically since 2015, and so this would be this group will mark our 6th release, I believe. Yeah, 6. Darren? Yeah. And so Darren was part of the very first release at San Simeon as an intern. So he can speak to the level of excitement that happens maybe right before release.
Yeah. Yeah, honestly, releases are maybe one of, like, if they're not my favorite thing we do, is certainly one of them. It is an exciting time. You can never really predict what the birds are going to do when they come out. Some walk right out very calmly of the pen and go to our release slope right there and chow down on some of the proffered food we leave out for them. But others just like really fly the coop. They just take off and let the wind take them where they're going to go on their first flight. But it is really exciting. It's been great to see these 7 birds in the pen again, because it does remind me a lot of those the first releases I helped out with as an intern. We had 7 birds then too, so it's been really cool to see.
Yeah, we're all excited for sure. So that's big news, and that's going to really boost the population. So these 7 birds have their work cut out for them, no doubt. They've got down at San Simeon is pretty exciting. We have a nesting pair down there that unfortunately of the 9 that perished in the fire, one of those was their chick from last year. So that chick had fledged. So we believe they will definitely try to nest again. And we're excited for that. But that will also, these young birds will have to navigate that territory and be careful, because the pair there will definitely defend their territory. So they'll learn quick. They'll have a lot to learn, but they'll also get to see the best way to learn how to nest is to see birds doing it. So, you know, it's pretty awesome that these birds get to get released and see the natural cycle going on, not only for feeding, not only for nesting. It's pretty awesome. So they hit the ground running. So even more exciting news, you know, while this year was a bit devastating, there is the positive that we have 4 wild fledglings, that have all fledged this year despite the fire. These nests were one of the nests that the photo of this bird was burned over in the net. This nest tree was burned over in the fire. It was it was probably twice as big as the tree in Anderson, you know, that not Anderson, but the Redwood Queen and Kingpin's nest. So their nest trees. So this is really exciting news. This photo was taken by Stephanie on our crew. She's our on-staff amazing photographer. She got this shot. It was a pretty tricky one. This is our first visual ever of this wild chick. So we were excited to see, you know, and despite everything that happened, to see that the condors are still able to get nestlings out despite the fire. And then we have 3 nests still inland that are going to fledge, that have just fledged. Those nests are all in and around pinnacles. So still, you know, we had 8 nests to start this year, and we ended up with 4 fledglings, and, you know, 2 of those were evacuated and will likely get released next year. So it's still a decent year, you know, considering all that happened on the nesting front. So it just shows you how resilient condors are and how well they're built to withstand the natural elements, you know, even stuff like fire. Pretty exciting news. So you add these 4 and the 7 they're going out San Simeon, 2 in Pinnacles. It's going to be a big boost to the population. So, you know, we're bouncing back. We're we're in that restore mode, restoration mode of getting this flock and getting that population number back up. So again, just want to thank everybody. Kelly linked the site as well. This was, this has been a really tough ride for everyone, and we just can't thank everyone enough. And I wanted to go through some questions. Darren, you've got the same list I do. I think we addressed a lot of them, but it'd be cool to hit some of the questions that maybe we weren't able to get to in the presentation. And I will tell Iniko's gender, don't worry. After the question. So do you have one, Darren?
Yeah, I actually had a question here sort of in the middle of the list, but just about the releases at San Simeon. I know you kind of talked a little bit about the background there, Joe, but just asking about, where do we only get birds from San Diego Zoo for those releases, or how that all works? And we get birds that are really part of the captive breeding program from all over. I mean, so San Diego Zoo is definitely one of our partners there, but also LA Zoo, Oregon Zoo as well, and then also the Peregrine Fund up in Boise. Really, whenever we're ready for releases, it just depends on who has birds available for us to bring down here and release.
Again, I see a lot of Iniko questions. So the gender that I'm going to reveal, it was, LA Zoo did get a blood sample when we first took Iniko, and that's what we're using. That's what they used to do the DNA and the gender determination. That was a question here. So LA Zoo did collect that sample. And how old will Iniko be at the zoo when he gets his first tags? They'll probably be right around a year in age, or they haven't tagged. It's really up to the zoo, and I think timing of when they actually handle birds. They do yearly physicals on all the birds, but I assume it'd be when they round up other birds, and he'll get his ID tag, and that will be that have the 31 on it. So that'd be cool. You see one, Darren?
Yeah, I had some questions, or saw some questions about other release sites for the north of here. One, like if there will be one question asking about the release site that is being worked on in Redwood National Park with the Yurok tribe, and then also someone asking if there would be condors released in Oregon. And yeah, the site in Redwood National Park that's being managed by the Yurok tribe is almost going. I think COVID and the fires definitely made. I think they had planned to release birds there this year, but just with the difficulties that this year has brought, it's been tough to get that going. But yeah, I mean they're ready, and that we should have birds released from there soon. And then in terms of further north up in Oregon and the Northwest, I do think that there are talks to get releases going there, but nothing imminent at this time.
Again, a lot of questions about will Iniko recognize mom, and I think so, and I think they'll probably get along. There'll be a little hierarchy there, because even parents, let their chicks know who's boss, and their most important role is letting that chick know its role. It's where it fits in the social hierarchy. So that's that year after they leave the nest, mom and dad kind of shepherd them into the flock. And it really eases the transition. So when birds get released at a year and a half in age, that's the first thing they have to learn, is how to navigate that hierarchy and not step on too many toes. Because usually you step on a toe, you'll probably get a little bit of a backlash there. But it's kind of give and take. But yeah, I think Iniko will definitely recognize mom.
Oh, okay. Just wait till you see that.
I've got a question here about just asking how the condors are able to find food right now with all the burn scars and everything, and if we're still putting or providing supplemental food for them. And yeah, it does seem they're still out foraging and finding food. We are still providing supplemental feeding about once a week or so. And yeah, you can see that on the live cam we have on explore.org. I'm sure most of you are familiar with that, but yeah, you can see them feeding up there as well still.
Yeah, definitely the sanctuary cam is pretty active right now, and that actually is going to be a good thing to watch 190's interactions. And that's the beauty of the cam, is you guys will be right there with us watching some of these, and that's where a lot of our courtship displays and courtship behavior first starts. Is usually the birds get done feeding, and then you start to see a male parade around, and you're going, "Who's he?" You know, we're like, "Oh my God, who's he displaying to?" You know, so you're trying to figure out which female they're courting. So it'd be pretty obvious if you guys regularly tune into the cam. You'll definitely pick up on the patterns and see, the males and females that are gravitating towards each other. So definitely highly recommend the cam. We're going to do our best to keep that cam rolling through the sanctuary cam rolling through the winter, and that's going to be a great resource for all of us. And do condors have emotions in the loss of a mate or chicks? Do they get depressed? Did they get depressed over the fire? I just, as a scientist, I don't know. I think I'm sure they miss birds, obviously, that they've spent a lot of time with. In what capacity, I just can't say. But for 190, for instance, it might take her longer than we think to repair. To pair up. She was with 167 since 2006. I mean, that's 14 years of her life was paired with that male, and so it's really we just don't know. But and is Iniko missing mom? I'm sure. It's but again, it's just hard to say, and time will tell. But yeah, the fire was definitely not only us humans. I'm sure it rattled the condor flock too.
Yeah, I've got a question here about when the best time is to see condors in Big Sur. Really, I mean, all year round you can see them, but the middle of the day, typically between like 10 a.m. until late afternoon, when the most thermal activity is going on, is when you'll see the most birds down by the coast. And there's a few like hot spots down along Highway 1 that are really good for seeing some of our birds.
Yeah, here's a good question. Will Iniko be released by the nest? No, he'll actually be released just like the other birds from one of our release pens, and that'd actually give him a much better start to be with birds his own age, and they can help each other out. So we tend to like to release those. We wouldn't want to release them alone down by the nest, especially if 190's nesting again. She would be in nest mode and wouldn't be able to pay that much attention to Iniko anyway, because she'd be busy raising another chick. So it would be, it's in our best interest to definitely release Iniko with a group of birds that Iniko knows. So, and a similar age.
Joe, let me jump in, man. I think everyone wants to know the gender of Iniko.
Let's do it.
Wait any longer.
I know you can't wait. I don't think. Yeah. Let's go to the next slide. Okay, here we are. Iniko is all right. Place your bets. It's a girl. I actually, we were, as a crew, we were all making our bets, and I actually guessed male, so I was wrong. But shows you what I know after 20 years. But yeah, we're excited, and honestly, as a population, we need more females. In the fire, unfortunately, we lost more females than males, so we were really happy to hear Iniko was a female. So yeah, that's pretty exciting. And again, thanks everybody. This is a photo just taken a few days ago by Stephanie up at the sanctuary. The birds are still there. They're going strong. They're rebuilding. They're doing their own rebuilding, but home is home. You can't, even a fire won't run these guys out. So I think this photo captures it really, really well. So kudos to Stephanie. And thanks again, everybody, for joining. Yeah, these are so fun to do. And again, just keep checking in on our website. I love the explore.org. We have the the comment chain there. People are so into it, and it's awesome. And any news we get on Iniko, we'll let you know. But all the news has been good so far, so we're really, really thankful to LA Zoo. And in terms of updates, LA will likely update us, and then we'll update you guys, because they have so many birds they're caring for right now in their facility. They're definitely one of our. They do, if people knew what they do behind the scenes is pretty incredible. So can't thank enough LA Zoo and all of our partners, Fish and Wildlife, Pinnacles, and all of you. We can't do it without you. And the rebuild continues, as Kelly said, and we're just pushing forward, and we're excited to get this flock back up to where it was, and I have no doubt we will accomplish that. So again, thanks for joining tonight. Anything else, Kelly, you want to add any more? Or I think call it a.
Yeah, you really nailed it, Joe.
One
great
question.
job, everybody. And I like how you ended with thanking all of you, because that is critically important. Without you, we can't do this work. So thank you very much.
Thanks, everybody. And if you have more questions, just you can send them to our website. We have an info email. We'd be glad to answer them after this chat for sure. Thanks, everyone.
All right.
Have a great night.
See you next time.